adjourn from executive session. Mr. O'Brien.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fidel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. So I look for a motion for the approval of the agreement on the terms presented and discussed in executive session and giving the attorneys authority to negotiate non-substantive details.
So moved.
Mr. Fidel, seconded by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Ms. Caroline?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Fidel?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Powers?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, the motion passes unanimously. So the next item on the agenda is the attorney's report, just so we can maybe allow Mr. Dugas to get out of here early. I'll ask that we could go out of order, move down to the action items, and discuss the 3 contracts, and that can be done in public session.
Yes. You have the right to discuss those in a non-meeting if you choose. In my experience, it's usually not necessary unless there's something you think is necessary to discuss.
And so the first one would be the paraprofessionals. Is that the order, or would you prefer a different order?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we concluded negotiations with the paraprofessionals on or about October 11th. Paraprofessionals throughout the state have been a group that have been difficult to fill. The wages are at the lower end of the scale, and I think we're all pretty familiar with the fact that lower wage positions have been very difficult to fill, whether it's bus drivers, food service workers, and paraprofessionals in particular. And as a result, and in looking at your salaries compared to comparable districts, which we always do when we go into these negotiations, at the high end, you were competitive. At the low end, you were not as competitive as your neighbors in similar districts. So what we agreed to do was to eliminate the first 6 steps on the salary scale. My understanding is you haven't really been hiring at those rates anyway, because you've had to go higher on the wage scale to find folks. And so we're eliminating steps 1 through 6 of the wage scale. Anybody who is currently, currently on 1 through 6 will move to step 7 on the wage scale. And then the other positions on the wage scale, 7 through 14, will get a 2.5% increase from where they are now.
That's the nurses.
I apologize, I grabbed the wrong file. Thank you.
Should've just stayed with nurses.
Yeah, I know. All right, so my apologies. So what we've agreed to is a 4-year contract. This and the nurses go back to July 1 of 2024, as opposed to the teachers, which I'll get to in a moment. And what we agreed to with the paras is a 2.5% across the board wage increase for the first year, a 2.5 percentage increase for the second year, a 2.5% increase for the third year, which is effective, which is a 26-27 year, and then a 3% increase for 27 through 28. We're also agreeing to a $1 an hour stipend for those paraprofessionals that are assigned to a self-contained classroom. In addition, we are bumping up the cost share contribution. It'll be 18.5% for the first year, goes up to 19%, and goes up another 0.5% in the third year, and stays at 19.5% for the fourth year of the contract. There have been a couple of language increases or changes to the contract, nothing really substantive. Those are the essential terms and conditions. For example, we increased the probationary period from 60 to 90 days. We've increased the number of days from 3 to 5 at which somebody is out before they've got to produce a doctor's note. And a couple other clarifying provisions, but those are essentially the terms of the agreement, the primary economic terms.
Ms. B&G, do you have anything to add?
No, actually, I think we really did a very fair job, very competitive contract in the end. And I am pleased that it's 4 years.
Because we won't have to do this again for 4 years? Or?
Well, quite frankly, I think our, the staggering of our union contracts has been such that we end up with 3 or 4 in 1 year, which can be challenging time-wise for the administrators that are involved, but equally as important, it's become costly in our budget. So to stagger them a little bit is helpful.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. O'Brien?
And just about reporting the day before the start, is that so they can attend the convocation?
Correct.
Any other questions? So you'll be looking for a motion to approve from us?
Correct. Correct.
It would not be convocation, correct? It would just be the day before the students actually report to school.
Yeah, I was gonna jump, the reason we're having them come the day before is so they can be prepared to receive their students that day. Be able to review the IEPs and the needs and be prepared to do their job.
Any other discussion? Look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fabian, seconded by Mr. Cormier. Any further discussion? No. Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Dell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Flowers?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, motion passes unanimously. Next would be, well, whichever you prefer, but on the agenda, it is Board of Stratford Education Association.
Sure. As the board knows, we generally negotiate teacher contracts a year ahead of time. That's based on the statute, which requires us to do that. It's usually the most significant impact on your budget, and that's why the law sets it up that way. So this is for a contract that would begin July 1st of 2025. The agreement that we reached with the teachers, let me just first say that during the course of negotiations, unlike we see in the non-certified area, we get a lot of There's a lot of negotiations that happen in a short period of time. We get a lot of information about what's been going on with settlements around the state. During these negotiations, based on that data, we were aware that teacher contracts were settling in the area of 4.4% a year when you take a general wage increase, also the cost of step movement that's involved. So mindful of that, what we agreed to was, we reached an agreement that would result in a cost to the salary account of 4.4% a year. In the first year, what we agreed to was a 3.68 increase to the top step only. The other steps stayed the same, but anybody who was on step would still advance a step. And when you combine the increase for the top step only, remember those folks aren't getting step movement, so that's what their increase is. With the cost of step movement, that resulted in a 4.4% increase to the salary account. Similarly, the next year, when what we agreed to is instead of just increasing the top step, we increased all the steps by 2.45%, and then advanced anybody who wasn't already at the top step a step. And again, the total cost of that to the salary account was 4.4. And then in the third year, it was a 2.29% general wage increase plus step movement, and again amounts to a 4.4% increase to the salary account. We've continued to track teacher settlement data this year. The settlements are actually now slightly above that number, but certainly what we've agreed to is consistent with what's happened with other districts. It helps to keep you in the same place relative to other districts in terms of where your salaries fall. And of course, if we ended up in binding arbitration, arbitrators look to those numbers, so I'm confident that those numbers are good numbers. A couple other things I want to point out. We also agreed to a 15-minute increase each day in the teacher workday and to the student day, importantly. And that results, I had done the math, but I think it was something like 38 hours more a year of teaching and learning for the kids. And given your status, we thought that was, a real positive development moving forward. On the insurance side, we agreed to two things. The first is there's a feature in insurance, I'm sure many of you are familiar with, called prior authorization on medications, and that's among other things to make sure that you're getting the most appropriate medication for whatever particular therapeutic need that you have is, and that was recommended by the insurance company, by the insurance broker that you use, and the teachers have agreed to that. The only caveat we had there is if somebody has an existing prescription, that they're not going to be subject to prior authorization because they already have it, but we're anticipating some decent savings to the district as a result of that. Combining that with the fact that the teachers have agreed to work 15 more minutes a day, which includes 15 more minutes student contact, we agreed to freeze the cost share at the 20% it's at now. You'll still see savings in the prior authorization requirement that's being implemented, but it's also locking in the teacher cost share at 20%, which obviously is beginning to get to a fairly substantial number. Few other changes I would note in there: increasing bereavement days from 4 to 5. 5 is more typical. And of course, you could argue there's no magic number to what bereavement requires. We have also developed the ability for teachers, if a teacher has exhausted their sick leave and they have a catastrophic medical situation, it allows teachers to donate to that. It's a little different than another concept you might hear called the sick bank, where people just put time in and people use it when they need it. This is for a more specific kind of situation, and we agreed to that. So the rest is, I would characterize essentially as clarification and cleanup. The other piece is clarifying that the first day back, for teachers, they can't be assigned any meetings. It's for preparation of classrooms, unless the only thing that can be required is convocation. That's what I was thinking of before when I responded. Those are the primary terms and conditions. I think they're consistent with where settlements are. I think it positions Stratford, particularly in terms of providing more in-seat learning time for kids. And I would just also comment that it was a very collaborative negotiation process. I think both sides came out of it feeling we did some good work. And based upon that, I would recommend your approval of the contract.
Can you, I don't know if you did, but the hourly rate?
Yeah, just there's miscellaneous hourly rates in the contract. The hourly rate currently, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, so like curriculum writing. yeah.
Exactly. It's currently $33. Frankly, the state average by my research and estimates currently is more in the neighborhood of $42 to $45, so we agreed to increase that. Pam would have a better sense, but my guess is that's not gonna move the budget needle a whole lot.
You do have a budget line for curriculum writing, and it really is a very, very small percentage of your total budget. So it really won't be that impactful as a transition in cost.
And I just one more, maybe you could clarify. I was not involved with the negotiations, but I have family members in the union. And our bylaws were kind of working through them and trying to get, should I recuse myself from the vote? I have no.
The rule of thumb is really you have to have a personal financial interest. So, if it were a spouse, then you should recuse yourself. If it is a daughter who's not counting on you for financial support, then there really is no financial benefit to you, so you don't have to in that case.
Okay.
I would say most people would probably, just out of an abundance of caution, recuse themselves anyway, but you don't have to do it unless it's a member of your household.
So then I will recuse myself on this vote. Mr. O'Brien, are you? Okay.
Not to say household, sorry.
Okay, excellent. Was any other comments or questions from Mr. Dugas?
Just one quick, it's minor, on the donation, are the teachers allowed to donate from their sick leave or just from their personal time?
Sick leave.
Because it's great because other districts, so some of the districts don't allow it, they can only donate their remaining personal time.
Sick leave.
Question of the special education caseload description that's specified in there, like,
Yeah,
what are
there's,
the numbers there?
I'm sorry?
Like the numbers, like I know with special education and caseloads, I know from my experience in my position and my job, they just continually increase. And so do we have like numbers as to where we're?
We don't do it by student, we do it by hour. So there is a formula that we use to calculate an appropriate number of hours of service, because it's not per kid. You may have 22 kids on your caseload with very low hours, right? But you may have 10 kids on your caseload with extensive hours. So we do our calculation based on service hours.
Okay, so we set a number on that? Do we know what that number is?
The number depends on which part of PBS you are working with. So there's a recommended number for speech and language pathologists, a recommended number for special education teachers, OTs, PTs. So I can send all those to you.
And then increased time, that's also increasing to the students. So we're adding about 15 minutes to the school day, so that will just be tacked onto the end of each school day. So like, for instance, high school will be 7:30 to 2:15 each day then?
No, we are going to add 15 minutes, but we're gonna do it respectfully by putting a committee together to talk about the best time of day to add those, whether it's morning or afternoon. So we'll have input from everybody in order to do that in a way that is respectful to the needs of our community.
preschool perspective, 7:30 is early isn't enough.
Yes.
So I've
And-
just
and
assumed the end of the day.
That may be what they
Would
choose.
make sense.
But I don't wanna
Why
make
not?
that choice for everybody.
So in as per our bylaws, a vote in the affirmative, the majority would be all 7 members. This case, it's 3-3, but if there was only 5 members voting, it would still need to be 4 members in the affirmative to pass, so it's just one clarification, so.
Can I just say, I just want to say that this process was extremely collaborative, and I am honored to have been a part of working with the teachers union and with the administrative group. It truly was a very rewarding process to go through. And I am impressed that we were able to collaboratively work together to come up with an agreement.
So then I guess we would need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Carol Fabian, second by Ms. D'Angelo Powers. Roll call vote, Ms. D'Angelo Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Dell?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
And I will recuse myself, so the motion will pass 6-0 unanimously. Last one.
Okay, well, I've already explained nurses to you. Sorry, I had my stuff organized in a different order. You know, as I alluded to before, we looked at, for the nurses, we looked at the market, and at the low end, you were not particularly competitive salary-wise. At the high end, you were. So we're eliminating the first 6 steps of the salary scale. You're not even hiring nurses at those steps, as I understand it, anyway. Then in addition to that, those people currently on steps 7 through 14 will get a 2.5% increase the first year. Anybody who is on steps 1 through 6 moves to step 7. So that occurs year 1, and that's the end of any sort of adjustment, if you will. And then in year 2, it's a 2.75% general wage increase, and then in year 3, a 3.0% general wage increase. There were a couple changes in terms of the insurance. Minor point, life insurance was increased to $50,000. The health insurance, we added the same deductibles that the teachers have, which are slightly higher than the deductibles of $2,250 and $4,500 now. We're bumping them up to $2,500 and $5,000. The cost share contribution currently at 18.5%. We'll go up to 0.5% the first year, 0.5% the second year, and then is frozen at 19.5% for the last 2 years of the contract. The one thing I will tell you is that the teachers were, the nurses were supposed to ratify the contract today. I was supposed to get an email or text message. I haven't received anything yet, whereas the other 2 contracts have been ratified by the respective unions. I have not received notification. My suggestion would be to go ahead. Normally, it's customary for the union to approve the contract first, and then we bring it back to you. Nothing in the law requires that. My suggestion, to save time and not having to come back and do this again, is you approve the contract, and if for some reason they don't, well, then we'll be in arbitration. Or I'll be coming back to you with something different. I don't know. But I would recommend approval of the nurses' contract, because again, it brings in line the salaries, particularly at the lower end with the market. My understanding is, there've been some open positions and a little bit of some difficulty in filling those positions as a result, and this should help with that.
First, I just want to say that we may not have heard that they ratified it. They did have the majority of their union during negotiations sitting in, which is a good thing. So they seem to all be pretty much on the same page, so let's hope that's a non-issue. Also, just so the board is aware, there's very few individuals that are affected by that lower, by that jump to the step 7. There were, I believe, 3. Most, as Attorney Dugas just pointed out, have been hired at higher salaries because our starting salaries were incredibly low. So I think this is an excellent opportunity to kind of become more competitive in an area where every school district is struggling to fill school nurse positions. And we do currently have 2 vacancies. So we are anxiously trying to fill those. We do have contracted individuals in them, so the schools are covered, but it is important. Overall, I think the economic package here is reasonable, and I do feel that it's a very solid agreement at this point.
Nothing further.
Any other questions? I look for a motion to approve,
So moved.
pending nurses union ratification. Moved by Ms. Padel.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. D'Angelo Powers. I know we already had discussion, roll call vote. Ms. D'Angelo Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy? Yes. Ms. Padel?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Frank? Ms. Garabedian?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else need punch out? So we can-
Yeah.
Thank you for all your efforts on all these. It was an amazing job. So thank you. We'll move on to the superintendent's executive report.
So good evening. I'm going to start with some really positive information. I want to start by bringing an important week to everyone's attention, American Education Week. This year, American Education Week will be observed from November 18th to November 22nd. This annual celebration was established in 1921 by the National Education Association and the American Legion, who organized it as a response to concerns about educational access. Over the decades, it has grown into a national tradition that honors the commitment and hard work of our educators and our support professionals. So during American Education Week, we celebrate not only the extraordinary contribution of our teachers, but also the invaluable roles played by every member of our educational community. From our administrators to our custodians, nurses to counselors to paraeducators and volunteers, all of whom share a common purpose: to nurture and uplift our students. Education is at the heart of our community, and I truly believe that in Stratford. And it is through the collective efforts of our teachers, our support staff, our families, and our community members that we ensure that every student has access to a quality education. So as we approach American Education Week, I encourage all of us to reflect on the power of partnership in education and to think about ways to recognize those who dedicate themselves to fostering the potential in every child. In honor of that week, we are going to be running some spotlights of our incredible employees, highlighting their dedication and their positive impact they make every day. So I encourage everyone to keep an eye out for these special recognitions as we showcase the talents and the commitment of our Stratford team. With that, it is my privilege, and since you're all 3 here, I'm going to give it to all 3 of you. It is my privilege to offer this proclamation to the SEA. May the upcoming celebrations of American Education Week remind us all of the deep impact the educators and the educational support professionals have on the lives of our students and our community. So thank you for all you do.
I'll walk right over here. Thanks, I'll even give you hugs like that. I know, this is really weird.
Thanks.
And because the superintendent promised that presentation would be so very short.
One more. Next, my executive report shifts towards Alliance. Right now, our leadership team is preparing for our first Alliance district visit by the state. I want to keep you all in the loop of all the things we've been working on and how lucky I am to have such a hardworking and supportive team. Our team has been focused on completing a comprehensive data review to ensure we accurately reflect the strengths and needs within the Stratford Public Schools. The Alliance District beginning of year resource allocation review is an essential part of the efforts to maximize the equity and effectiveness in our resource distribution. This week, we are finalizing a required PowerPoint presentation which has specific focus areas that include examining our district's demographics, recent assessment data, attendance and behavioral data, and staffing information, particularly vacancies and teacher attendance. A core component of this review is identifying any resource allocation inequities, understanding the trends in our data, and analyzing subgroup performance to ensure we are supporting students effectively. Our team is also engaged in deep discussions around significant trends and outliers that impact student achievement and performance. Through this process, we are developing critical questions that will guide our next steps in resource planning and highlight areas where further support may be necessary. So I look forward to sharing with the Board of Ed more after the Alliance visit, as this is ongoing work that strengthens our commitment to student success and aligns with our district's strategic priorities. So I thank you for your continued support, and I am going to bring back to you after the visit what comes out of all of this work with the state. Now I'm done.
I just meant that presentation, not the other one, so. Was there something something happened with Vanel, letter we received, and he was asked to do a letter of commendation for?
Yeah, we did, we received, are you speaking of the investigation that went into Title IX and the services for all the students within Vanel? Is that for your words at the NEOSC accreditation? Yes. So we had two good reports that were done. They came in to look at Vanel and Stratford High School first to make sure we are equitably distributing our resources for our school sports and our services. And it was deemed that we have appropriate fields for everybody and appropriate supports in there. And then we also received the NEOSC accreditation report that was wonderful. And if you all haven't had it, I'll make sure to share it with everybody.
Just elaborate on exactly what that is. And you?
I can send you guys something.
Okay, okay.
I don't have it pulled up in front of me, so I don't want to speak inappropriately. Does that conclude your report? It does.
Ms. Mangini, I think you're up next.
Okay, this is the wonderful time of year that we deal with 3 fiscal years all at once. We, yes, are beginning our budget development season for fiscal year 26. We have sent out information to all our schools and departments with a calendar of when everything is due, and also the entire budget calendar for the year, as well as the budget workshops. We've also shared those all with you this evening. They're at your seats, and we will send them electronically to you as well. So stay tuned for all the fun I'm sure we'll be having, but we are doing our due diligence as we do every year, and we do, our budget season is always based on zero-based budgeting, where we start from zero base, meaning we don't just take what's in the budget, look at it and add to it or subtract from it. We actually reevaluate and analyze each line item to make certain that the appropriation request that comes to you is truly representative of our needs. So we will be keeping you informed of that. We are finishing up the how-to guide, which you have received in the past, and we'll get that out to you as well once we submit it to our schools and departments, and that should be coming out next week. So as we're doing that, we're also working with our auditors on fiscal year 24, and I know that the board and the finance committee members did receive a number of reports as well as memos from me outlining our year end from fiscal year 24. And we did have our balance currently, of course, I emphasize that it's unaudited at $1,553,947, which is about a 1.24% of the total budget appropriation. And I will say that there could be changes to the year-end total through the audit process, but I did want to stress that there are a number of variables that affect the board budget. The primary area of savings for fiscal year 24 remains constant, as I reported all throughout the year, and it was salaries and benefits. As you know, the district experienced significant savings in these areas, primarily as a result of unfilled positions, numerous resignations, and subsequent new hires at different rates than we actually budgeted for. So we've talked a lot about fiscal year '24 throughout the year. Once the audit is complete, and it seems like the town is on the right track to get that done, hopefully timely this year. And I know that Susan Nicholson has been working very closely with the town finance director, which is good news. Hopefully that will all get cleared up quickly. And I know the auditors have been here, and they will be out again, I believe, later this week as well. You've also been provided with a monthly financial report for September. And normally around this time of year, I'm telling you, it's really early in the fiscal year and there's limited information to share. However, I did want to bring to your attention a couple of items. First is something positive. The town locked into fuel pricing, which will save us money in this fiscal year's budget. I'm estimating that to be around $40,000. Unfortunately, the timeline for their bids ends October 31st, which really doesn't help us much in setting the budget for next year. So we'll kind of work with the town's purchasing agent to get a feel for where we think we might be. Though I think I'll need a crystal ball as well, because that's a hard thing to predict. But that is the good news. The not so great news is we've been watching our utility invoices very carefully, and of course we've only received a couple over the last couple of months. In reaching out to DBS, our energy experts, they are telling us that we will probably be seeing a significant deficit in our utilities, particularly in our electricity accounts, and that is because the PURA tax was passed. If you recall, last year we had a significant year-end balance in the utilities because we budgeted for that tax and it never came to fruition. We weren't really sure if it would or wouldn't, so we took the cautious approach as guided by DBS, and we did not put it in there. We could be $400,000 short there, but Eric Bartone, who was at one of our previous meetings, did give us a little bit of a breather by saying we could have some savings in natural gas, but of course that's dependent upon how cold our winter is. So as we go through the year, we'll be checking all of this really carefully. But these are the areas that I continuously share with the board. We have so many areas in our budget that really have numerous variables that affect them, that we can't ever be certain what our budget needs are going to be. We do our best with our historical reviews and our data analysis. So I will continue to report to the board as accurately as we can. And in November, we are hoping to provide you with a report that has a little bit more meat to it. We are actually working with the special ed office to get a better handle on where our costs are for special education. Right now, we think we're right about on budget. We're holding our breath on that one, because as you know, that's another area that can change very rapidly.
Right now, my educated guesses are on par, but that does not account for anyone who moves in or becomes identified going forward.
And lastly, I just wanted to mention that we have begun work on the annual 5-year capital budget plan. Rich Ruggiero is gathering information, meeting with each building principal to review their needs. All requests were due in by last Friday, and Rich and I will be meeting later this week to kind of review it, and then we will put together a full plan to bring to plant planning for its review before it comes to the board for final approval. So we have been busy, but all good stuff.
And I know in the past, the council, as of late, has been voting on their capital improvement plan after the budget process.
That's correct.
So that might give us a little window, because we've skipped the planning process in the past, so it would be great to incorporate that into it.
And that is our plan, is to bring it to plant planning first and then the full board. So we're good.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
There's a proposed item for action a little later on the budget transfer that's needed and also the tuition rates for the coming year.
If you'd like me to address them now, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Sure. The transfer, I did speak about at the last board meeting, and it's really more or less what I consider a housekeeping item for fiscal year '24. We're asking for a blanket year-end budget transfer. It's part of our annual end-of-year process, and it's to avoid us coming to you with about 80 line items, and it's primarily to eliminate any deficit accounts. And this will allow us to follow board policy 3160 and abide by the financial controls audit recommendation that was done a few years ago, and that guided us to eliminate all deficits. So again, it will primarily just be in salary, professional services, transportation. It's just moving line item balances to deficits. So it's not, we're not purchasing anything, the year's closed out, all the encumbrances are set, nothing is changing. It's simply to eliminate those deficit accounts. And with regard to tuition, this is annual that we bring this to you. We calculate the tuition each year after the education finance system report is completed, because it's based on those numbers. And it is a best practice calculation that we utilize. And as you can see, it did increase slightly for the new school year.
Quite a bit more than it did the previous year.
Yes, it did. And I think that was a result of a number of costs, including our special education costs that have gone up as well. So when we factor everything in for the EFS, and again, it's done solely on those numbers. I'm just trying to find my own report. Here it is. So yes, it jumped up a lot more last year and not as much this year.
Anybody have any questions?
Mrs. Mangini, just to,
I'm sorry, where you go?
yes, just to clarify, the rate is different based on level, like school level?
Correct.
Is that due to the amount enrolled in that grade level or in that area?
No, we're obligated to set tuition rates based on levels, elementary, middle, high school, and special education. And the total cost, yes, would be based on, it is divided by the number of
Okay, because
students.
I was wondering why middle school, which is only 2 years, would be such a larger rate than elementary or high school. So, but if it's based on the
Yes.
amount enrolled,
Yes.
then okay.
So it's taking the total cost divided by the
By the
students, so
amount of
that if we
students,
bring
okay.
any other students in, they are paying the cost of what it is actually costing our taxpayers.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that.
Yep.
And then one other question, when you mentioned, a surplus of 1,500,000, that does not include, or that does include the $1 million that we have already allocated for the reading program.
It does include the $1 million. As you recall, back at your June meeting, you did move to set aside up to $1 million for the science of reading. So the balance, the 1.5 million minus up to the 1 million, that balance will be going back to the town.
So, right, so that's the 500,000.
Correct.
Thank you for the clarification.
Let's just quick, but that eliminates the cost of continuing upgrading the science of reading, which we would have been hit with this next year,
Yes,
the year after.
it avoids us adding that into our budget request for next year. That's my report.
Okay, any other questions? So I'll look for an acceptance of the minutes of the September 23rd, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Moved by Mr. O'Brien, second by Mr. Dell. Any discussion? Information? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. I'll look for an approval of the personnel assignments classifications.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dow. Second by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion?
So, just a question. I was a little confused by like, there was a retirement and then a hiring of the same position by the same person, like within a day. call anybody specifically out, but
For a different position, they retired.
same
from-
position, they retired.
I'm just looking for the name, please, that I saw too.
So that teacher retired from one position and took a technology position.
But that's not how it's listed here. They retired from a technology position and then took a technology position 2 days later.
I think that's just a typo.
They retired from a music position and took a technology position. That's what it should
Because
be.
that's, I was confused because,
Then, do you wanna make an amendment to,
sure.
okay?
I'd like to make a motion to amend, so that the, on page 11, item number 5 under teacher, it says as, a music education teacher.
So that would be, which number was that?
So it's on page 11 under, appointments of teacher, oh, no, I'm sorry, that one would stay the technology. And then on page 18,
19.
19?
on page 19, number 4 would change from technology to music.
Okay. So, G. James Miller will be retiring from music education teacher. Is that enough? Okay. So a motion to amend that to properly reflect the current position. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Angela Powers. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. So I'll look for a motion to approve the personnel assignments as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Cormier, second by Mr. O'Brien. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. All right, number 2, the budget transfers. I know you've explained it, but can we just tell us quickly what you're looking for in motion?
Yeah, actually, I am asking that the board authorize the chief operating officer and director of finance to make the necessary budget transfers to salary, professional services, transportation, and tuition accounts in fiscal year '24, and to pay other standard charges. These budget transfers may exceed board policy thresholds. The chief operating officer and the director of finance will report all budget transfers made to the finance committee and the board met.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dell, is there a second? Second by Mr. Kennedy. Any discussion? I'll go with a roll call vote. Mrs. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Dell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Mrs. Angela Powers?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Okay, so we've already taken care of 3 through 5. So number 6, which is an overnight trip. Who's gonna guide us through this one? You left the meeting too?
I do not think so. So an overnight field trip for Stratford High School Social Studies attending the Yale University Model United Nations Conference at Yale University on January 23rd to the 26th in 2025 was approved with a favorable recommendation from the curriculum committee. What that entails is our students will be traveling up to Yale University where they will participate in a mock model UN. Students are assigned a country and work together through scenarios. Students come from all over, including other countries, to participate in this. Our students will stay overnight. There are supervisors and security to monitor that, but most of their day and their experience is running through the UN process and really getting the opportunity to work with students from all over and experience all that Yale University and its campus has to offer.
And it's just Stratford High, it's not both?
It is just Stratford High School. I ask this question every year, Mr. Henrik, at the curriculum committee and then in the board. No, it is not at both high schools. Benel does not currently have this program offered. You need an advisor to be able to do that. And I'm just not sure we have, the capacity right now.
Maybe we can ask our student rep how we can get that next time. All right, so we would need then a motion to approve.
So moved?
Moved by Mr. Fabian, second by Mr. Kennedy. Any further discussion?
Do we know how many students?
Yeah,
Can but now
15.
student participated?
No.
There's an opening?
No.
They don't have the,
It's a-
They haven't been
yeah,
participating in the-
It's a preparation for
Mhm.
yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Number 7, adoption of tuition rates. Ms. Mangini, I know you did it once, but
Yes, again, we did receive the tuition rates for the 2024-2025 school year. And as it indicates, these figures include all town maintenance, town fixed charges, interest on bonds, but it does not include Board of Ed operating expenses such as transportation, capital expenditures, continuing ed, student tuition payments, cafeteria, student activities, and expenses for accounts not in the regular budget that are financed 100% by state and federal grants. And that is the guidance that we receive when we calculate these tuitions.
look for a motion to approve as presented.
So
Moved by Mr. Dell, second by Mr. Cormier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Number 8, who is going to guide us on this one?
We received a generous donation of a very nice and well-kept hospital bed that can be used in our nursing program at Benel. And so I also want you to be aware that through these 2 donations that you're seeing on here, I have realized that we don't have a formal policy on donations. So I will be bringing that to the policy committee, so that a process can actually be put in place. But for the time being, because these are large donations, I want to make sure that the board approves of us receiving these. It is very needed in our nursing program, and we were very lucky. The donation came from Ms. Rosenberg, and she's very happy to donate it to us.
Look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fabian,
Second.
second by Mr. Ryan. Any discussion?
there's no tax ramifications on that, right?
No, we're often asked that, but we are not a 501(c)(3), so the individuals who donate cannot necessarily use it as a tax deduction. We will give them a thank you letter, and whatever they and their accountants decide is up to them.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Let me take the next one. All right, so as you know, the naming committee had selected Ruby McNeil for the English wing naming. Our original thought was we would put one sign up at the main entrance, and then speaking with the family, they had asked if they could reach out to their church and donate the cost of the second sign. So they did that. There'll be 2 signs. The larger one, which the town will buy, or the Board of Ed will buy, which is a larger sign will go in the main entrance, and then in the second stairwell will be a smaller sign, but still encompassing the wing itself. So, but they did go to the church. The All Souls Prayer Chapel Ministries donated the money so that we could purchase that second sign. And I will make a motion to approve. And look for a second. Second by Mr. Bedell. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Do you have anything to report on residency, or a quick update, or
We are just.
before you do, yes or no? We have to take off table. So.
Oh, no, I don't have anything formal to report, but I will let you know that I can have something written up for the board at the next meeting,
Okay,
just to give you an update on the year.
okay, all right. Yeah, it's just table. So, did we ever get a year end?
Yes.
We got the year end last year, okay. So maybe just, the first, maybe quarterly.
Yep.
Okay. committee assignments. There are no new appointments or resignations that I'm aware of. Mr. Kennedy or Ms. Carol Fabian, Curriculum Committee?
That'll be me. The Model UN field trip was presented, which we just passed for them to attend. And Dr. Piazza and Dr. DiOrio shared the curriculum cycle review schedule that they are creating and working hard at and digging around for. And that was really all that happened.
Mr. Bell, updates on finance?
No, no.
Okay. School planning, we met, I think you're all aware, we expanded the membership to include a number of administrators to help us go through the process of the redistricting. We met, had some discussions, there were a couple scenarios laid out, which we'll be discussing at our next meeting on October 1st Thursday of November. We're back on track with the Thursdays with the holidays and then Christmas and kind of the summer. We got a little off we met every month, but anyway, so that'll be that meeting. Board of Ed Liaison did not meet, policy did not meet, but we are meeting, when's our next meeting? You know, the date?
In November,
Okay.
get the exact date.
Okay, and I'm guessing we'll have a policy on donations that we'll get as well. Athletic review, Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, we met last week, and the athletic director reviewed just a budget presentation with us. We did ask if they could present at the board meeting, or Pam presenting some of that data, and she will at the next time meeting. So it will be helpful here, because it is budget season. The other couple things, we did get an update with buses. Buses seem to be going good this fall season, so that's great. And the last thing that was discussed is that the Hall of Fame banquet will be a joint banquet this year between Stratford and Bunnell.
And I think if I can jump in, Mr. Kennedy, the other concern while the buses have been okay so far in the fall sports season, they are concerned about going forward and if we have secured that van or vans.
I'm happy to report on that. There were 3 that were approved, and quite frankly, it took us quite some time to determine what our needs were based on what type of van, how many passenger, and what kind of license our drivers would need. So we struggled with that for a while. I definitely give a lot of credit to Susan Hughes. She really worked very hard to get a lot of information and good information. We have determined the best way to move forward. We've been working with Phil Ryan and the state. They are about to come out with their bid list for those types of vehicles for 2025 models, and they should be out within the next 2 weeks. So we are also working with Public Works Director Renee Serra, so we can get a purchase order put in place. So we are moving. It's taken a lot longer than I had expected it to, but once we got into this, we realized it was a little more complicated than we thought, and we wanted to make sure we made the right decisions and we crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
Bylaws Committee, we've met twice in the month of October. We believe that we'll need one more meeting to fine tune or to adjust some of the bylaws, and then we'll get a red line copy and an original copy, and the committee will go through that again, and then shorten it up and then bring it to the full board for a vote. But we've been working pretty hard at that, and I think we've been making some good progress. Try and eliminate some of the redundant stuff and whatever it is, and make it more appropriate. So we will be meeting again on the first Thursday in November, and we're hoping we can finalize that piece and then move it on to one more meeting before we get to the board. The naming committee, look when they see us coming looking through the school. So, and the other part is on Friday. We've been invited to the Bunnell Culinary Institute. If you haven't, I know I'll be able to make it 2, 3, 4. You guys, can you make it? Okay.
It's the middle of my work day.
Okay. No,
And I
you're.
can't just walk away. I don't go in my business.
Okay, so, Teresa, if you could let them know that we'll have 5 members attending?
Sure.
Board. They've reached out today, but it's a great opportunity. The culinary program is amazing. They're doing a phenomenal job over there, and there's definitely a need to expand the program, so. But this is just an opportunity to go to each night, I would say.
I will say though, yeah, having attended their CES showcases each spring, you are in for a treat.
Are they doing the Veterans Day once again?
Yes, you received an invite.
And it's the same program that Ms. Gottesman, before she left, presented on to let you know that there was a huge wait list, that students want to get into it, and we never have enough space for everyone to
We
have.
do not. My senior is going to get to take it second semester of her last year at Bunnell High School after putting in for it for all 4 years.
I think the number's 200 per school.
Yes, there are over 200 per school that are not able to get in.
And I was very disappointed when we did our tour because they were making clam chowder, and I wasn't there long enough to get the clam chowder, but I did get the iced tea, so, but I'm looking forward to Friday, so, we'll update you on that. And any other, good of the order?
I just, for the good of the order, I did pull up the NEASC accreditation, and I do think it's important that Bunnell get highlighted. The commission gave them accommodations for their culture of their school. They said it embraces and celebrates the diversity of the school community while also creating socially and emotionally and intellectually safe environment. They received accommodation for their advanced period, for allowing students in all grade levels to connect daily. Their pathways were noted as a strength. Their Raptor system for safety, it was noted for its cleanliness and its maintenance. We know that we need to give Bunnell a good facelift and a lot of tender loving care, but they were noted for how well it was kept. And the pride in the building, the pride of the staff in the building was noted as important, and they gave a lot of accommodations to just how open, willing, and amazing they were in their round cooperating. So Bunnell did a fantastic job in showing how wonderful and how hardworking they are.
And you do know that's the first question we've asked you in like 9 months, you haven't been able to answer off the top of your head?
I do the best that I can, but sometimes I have to go back and look it up. I didn't want to give him a compliment that I didn't have the details on.
That's a great compliment, thank you. Anything else?
Yeah. Just a quick shout out to our Pop Warner cheerleading teams that will all be heading to regionals in the next couple of weeks because they placed at states, so good luck.
And I think there was an amazing article on one of our Bunnell football players / students.
There's articles left and right from both Bunnell, Stratford High, and the community, so make sure you're checking those papers.
A lot of good stuff, so. And you're from which?
I'm Nick Sambiges from the Connecticut Examiner. Nice to meet you.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Lisa has something.
Oh.
Well, we're doing shout outs. 5 schools have invited veterans to events this coming couple weeks. It's incredible. The Stratford Veterans Museum already has 11 field trips booked for the coming year with calls coming in constantly, and we still have enough budget to pay for all the buses.
I think Lisa had her.
Thanks, I just wanted to, I know we touched on it briefly and Jenna mentioned it in her report, but for those that have never had the opportunity or have not gotten the chance to attend Bunnell's Cavalcade of Bands, I have gone for many years, but I've attended every year as a board member, and it is just a remarkable, incredible production and show that they put on. I have to give a special shout out to those band parents also, because I'm a dance mom and that's a whole thing, but a band parent is a whole different level. A phenomenal job. The amount of bands that were there were incredible. The performances, just everything. The honor and privilege of presenting those awards with Mayor Hoydick and myself representing the board and her representing the town was just a special night. And again, bravo to our band and our band parents. Spectacular show.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion passed unanimously.